Tyler Lockett, Alex Collins with COVID? Are you kidding me? Let's go. We got to talk about something. What's up, everybody? This is Normcamp coming at you with my special guest and sponsor of the show, Daniel Dovin of the Dovin Group at Marketplace Sotheby's. Yes, this is the weekly show, the Dive In with Dovin. And man, it seems like just when things couldn't get any more interesting, they find a way to become more interesting. As the breaking news of the day today was that, yes, Tyler Lockett and Alex Collins have just been added to the COVID list. As of just not even like an hour or two ago. So, Daniel, we were talking off air just before the show started. You didn't even know about this. What's your thoughts on hearing this news, man?
You know, I'm a big Seahawks content consumer, and I somehow missed the news. My initial take is, okay, well, it's time for DK to have a big game. He's due for a big game. I think D. Eskridge coming to his own. I think Gerald Everett playing his previous team. I think there's an opportunity here. I also think this is definitely the time for Rashad Penny to put a couple weeks together, string a couple great weeks together for the first time really ever in a Seahawks uniform. And he's got a great opportunity now because Adrian Peterson may or may not play. Alex Collins may or may not play. And Homer's been dinged up a little bit. And so we got basically him and DJ Dallas. So I think it's go time. It's go time. And what I like is we're more of a well-rounded team now than when we played the Rams the first time. So I'm excited to see how we match up, honestly.
Yeah. Well, let's start with a little bit of good stuff. We did come off of a big win against the Texans. Now, granted, every time you say we got a big win, you say, well, it's against the Texans or terrible, and but it still counts. The other team is still trying to win, and they're still professionals. So bad as they may have been, it still counts as a win for Seattle, and we needed to get it. So it's a lot better than talking about how we lost to the Houston Texans, who are a terrible team, right? So we got the win. I almost predicted the score precisely. I think in my prediction video from 3 months ago, I said we'd win 35-14, and the final score was 33-13. So I was only off by like 3 points, and 2 of them were because we missed extra points by Jason Myers. Otherwise, I would have been even closer. But what was your thoughts on that game, getting that win over the Texans? It was good to get 2 in a row. We haven't done that all season, so I thought it was great.
I honestly thought it was a really feel-good win. Winning by 20 in the NFL is a big deal. Putting up over 30 points and giving up less than 2 touchdowns is always a great day. It was nice to see kind of Russell have more of a classic day. He had a little bit of scrambling, had some really big plays, but I started to see more rhythm throws as well, just like he had the previous week. So he looks, 95, 97% healthy, which is great. And I want to give a little bit of love to the offensive line. I felt like they protected extremely well. And Russell also helped by maneuvering in the pocket, which I think there's times where he doesn't do a great job of that. But this last week, he stepped up at times. He shifted around. And, the big thing was Rashad Penny going against the worst run defense in the league. We took advantage of that. And I thought it was a well-balanced game. I think the numbers don't really bear out how lopsided it was. There's a lot of garbage time at the end. A lot of yards at the end, a lot of time of possession at the end. But really, it was a full dominating performance, as we should do against a backup quarterback, against a struggling team, against a bad run defense. I thought it gave me hope that we're starting to peak at the right time, heading into the fourth quarter of the season, as Pete Carroll always loves to do. And I will say this, regardless of who we play, I don't think anyone's looking flux at this time of year, which is very exciting, and I'm happy to see that again. I'll also say I think our defense is looking better. I felt like Ryan Neal has especially stepped up in the role of Jamal Adams, and he's been tackling really well and is playing a lot more discipline than he was at the beginning of the year. I think his angles are better, his leverage with the sidelines better. I think his understanding of his role in the defense is better. And he also hits really hard, whether it's against a wide receiver or tight end or running back. I like the way Ryan Neal plays. I'm really happy that we picked him up.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice to know that we can still get a win even with the absence of Jamal Adams, which of course, makes you question the stock value of how valuable is Jamal Adams. They're going to win without him. But either way, next man up, Ryan Neal, I've always been a big fan of. I'm glad they're using him now. They're going to have to. But in the beginning of the year, I was hoping they use him more because I think he is a great player. And even though he's still relatively young, he's doing a solid job fitting in there. So I just want to thank everybody who's watching out there. We got Itchy Boy X. We got David Gribb, who's a big fan of Daniel. He says he's glad that you're my sponsor, as I am as well. Of course, Alina Dahl. Yeah. Alina Dahl, of course, the fantastic moderator that she is. Thank you for being here. Anthony D with the super chat says, Norm, can you use the playoff machine in this video? Well, I'm going to look at the playoff machine. I think it's a little early for playoff machine as far as it pertains to Seattle. Let's win this next game, and then I think it might be playoff machine churning time because then things will get really interesting if Seattle can move their record to 6-8 and see how the rest of the league looks like. Then we'll start talking about some reasons to pull up the playoff machine. For right now, I think we got to get past this hump. This one's a real... hard to say. We've been saying must win for so many games, Daniel, but this one really is truly the must win in so many levels. And if we can win it, man, does that open up a lot of doors and change the momentum flow. So if we can take what we did against the Texans and move it towards where we're going against LA, then I think this could be a really exciting point in the season. My take on the game, I'm like you, the excitement of watching Rashad Penny take advantage of, if you're playing against the worst run defense, well, you expect to be able to run a lot, and that's what he did. He had a couple touchdowns, a couple big, huge runs, ran between the tackles, and, actually looked pretty impressive, breaking some, plays where he didn't just go down on first contact and fought for some yards, which I was excited to see. The offensive line did a pretty good job of keeping Russell clean. I don't think we had any sacks in that game, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're sack-free, so that was nice.
That's what I'm saying. 0, baby.
Yeah, and, he did go for the deep ball, which, it's so exciting. I just hope he doesn't think just because it worked in that game, he can do the same thing against LA, because I don't think that's going to be as easy to pull off, because we've seen what LA's front 4 and front 7 can do to Russell, and it's not a pretty sight if they get back there like they do, because he may not have that time. I mean, that's what caused his injury to his finger in the first place, was throwing the ball with Aaron Donald in his face and smashing that finger against his hand. We don't want to replay that situation. And so that I hopefully we'll be able to adjust. But it will be interesting to see if this COVID list thing affects the Rams even greater than it does for us, because that could mean that they may not have their all-pro cornerback, Jalen Ramsey. He's on the list. So is OBJ. And the running back. So it could affect the way the game goes. But there's plenty of stars still to worry about. And I think number one is just Cooper Kupp. My concern about going out of the Texans game, anytime you win, you feel good. But there's still issues that you can talk about. And my feeling was that game started off too easy for Houston going down the field and scoring their first touchdown like a hot knife through butter, man. They were just like throwing everything, wide open receivers left and right, crossing patterns, and then next they're in the touchdown in the end zone. And I thought, man, this feels like the first month of the year. I remember when teams were just throwing all over the place and we had guys with like 5 or 6 yards without anybody near them. It looked like that. And I was like, what's happening? This should not be happening now at this point of the season. They did stiffen up, and amazingly they kept him to 13 points, but still they gave up a lot of yards to this backup quarterback. I think he still ended up raking in like 300 something yards. So it was not exactly a shutdown performance. They just kept the points out the board, but you can't do that that'll be hard to do against a team like the Rams, who right now they're offensively flying high. So I hope they can stiffen some things up, continue to get pressure on the quarterback. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was doing a quick breaking news announcement about the COVID situation, I just said, we're going to need a little luck in this game. I feel like, because pound for pound, you can beat the Texans, but pound for pound, unless a bunch of those guys are missing, it's not like we've got the upper edge personnel-wise. So we're going to have a little bit of luck, I think, to do us. And we can't have Jason Myers. He missed a couple extra points, which in a game of blowout, it's no big deal. You kind of just, no big deal, it's fine. But in a game like against LA, every kick is going to matter. Every extra point, every field goal, I feel like it's going to be, if we're going to be close to a game that we can win this one, we're going to need every point there. So getting a little ahead of myself. I'm like talking keys to the game already, but I'm just trying to get off of the Houston game. But I guess we can pivot into that. I was going to mention one little aside. I said it right before we went on air, but had a little close call with my daughter. And this is more of a warning to all of you out there, young or old, but particularly you young drivers, because my daughter is Sophie. She just turned 17 yesterday. It was her birthday yesterday. And she's been driving for about a little over 6 months. But she has never really driven in cold weather before, less icy weather. Well, we got her first welcome to icy weather Tuesday morning when it was about freezing, and we had a nice sheen of ice on the road out there. And she was driving to school with her sister, Vanessa, and they hit a little patch of black ice, and she ended up kind of swerving and ended up smashing into the curb on the right side, damaged the right tire. Fortunately, that was all that got damaged. The kids were fine. Nobody else was affected. I had to go pick them up, bring them to school, get the car salvaged, tow it to a mechanic, all that stuff. And so a few $100 later, we're about to get that thing all squared away. But man, that was a little nerve-wracking call to get that one. I'm just glad that they were okay. But just now that we're in the winter time, just make sure you guys, when you're out on the road, be careful, because even if it doesn't look like, it may not seem treacherous, you might just suddenly find yourself hitting some slick stuff. And that on the way to school, after I picked them up, we passed 3 other cars who had slid off the road or gotten to like fender benders because of ice. And there were apparently like 96 State Patrol records of accidents that morning. So it was a bad morning in terms of ice and all that stuff. So be careful out there. For those of you who are driving around in cold conditions, it could happen to you. So just watch out when you're out there. So lesson learned. But let's talk about the game coming up here. I alluded to a few things already, but Daniel, why don't you tell me, what are some of your keys to the game, and how can we pull this thing off, man? How are we going to get this win over LA?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad both your daughters are safe.
Thank you.
And no one got hurt. That is very scary. It's very scary, and not too fun. I remember skidding down a hill full of snow for the first time in a car, and it's a terrible feeling to have a very heavy vehicle and to have no control. So first rule of driving the snow, everyone, is to not drive in the snow, is what I learned. And just avoid it if you can, and that's the truth. So keys to the game. I think, I watched the Cardinals-Rams game, and I think the thing that really shifted that game was the turnovers completely. I mean, it was back and forth, really epic primetime game, 2 high-flying offenses. The defenses were kind of off and on. Obviously, Aaron Donald, when the lights are on, he always has some clutch moments. But I would say overall, the thing that really shifted the game was Kyler Murray taking a few shots and having 2 picks. And to me, that's the thing that really sealed the deal, because I thought the Cardinals played really, really well. They ran the ball really well. I think James Conner's had an awesome year. He's great at catching the ball. He had 94 receiving yards, and he had another 31 on the ground with 2 TDs. So he had a game. So I felt kind of bad for him, because he really had a career day and came out with a loss. That being said, we cannot give the ball up to the Rams. That's the number one thing, Norb. We got to win the turnover battle. And I would say it's more important for us to hold onto the ball and keep it safe than it is to actually win the battle. We just need to not lose the battle. I'm actually pretty confident in where our offense is heading versus where it was last time we played the Rams. And then our defense, I feel like, I would be a little surprised if, Stafford went 23 for 30 in this game and put up 3 TDs and no interceptions. I felt like, for whatever reason, the defenses were just not really on par in the Rams and Cardinals game. So I'm hoping that we can put it together. I think if the Rams had Robert Woods right now, I would not be feeling the same way. I do think Van Jefferson's a great third wideout. I think OBJ is pretty good. But really, the only we're scared about is Cooper Kupp. Other than that, I feel like we have a shot here as long as we don't give it up. So that's number one, is not turning the ball over. Number 2, I think that DK does need to have a big game. I think it's been long overdue. I think he's ready. I think he likes playing the Rams. There's a little bit of history there. So I'd like to see DK have a game. I don't know what that looks like, but I would say, maybe at least 80 yards, maybe a TD. That would be fantastic. And number 3, I would like to have Pete Carroll be coaching aggressively. I want to see some funky stuff. I want to see some maybe going for it on fourth down. Mainly aggressive on the offensive side. I wouldn't necessarily say on the defensive side, like always, going full board blitzing. But I would say on special teams and offense, I'd like to have the coaching staff go pedal to the metal, because we have nothing to lose. And our best chance of succeeding is kind of winning like 30-24, something like that, where the defense plays solid enough and contains, and the offense really tries to use all the weapons we have, because we can be a really good offense when we put together. And so that's my hope, Norb. Those are my 3 keys to the game.
All right. I like that. For me, some of this is going to be repeated stuff, because I still think it is the keys to a Seahawks victory, but a little bit different one, especially now with the recent news with Tyler Lockett. My first one's going to be, I think we're going to have to really get some productivity from the tight ends and the running backs. So that means with potentially Tyler Lockett out, I don't think the passing game is going to be, we're not going to have the go-to guy that we usually do. They're going to double cover DK. And I want to rely on guys like Freddie Swain, Penny Hart, and D. Eskridge, a rookie, to bail us out. But I do think our multi-year tight ends and Gerald Everett, who was playing against his first team for the first time, because he didn't get to play the first time because he was out with COVID the first time, if you guys recall. So he didn't get to play against his old team. So I want to see the tight ends, especially Gerald Everett, to have a game where he's motivated. He wants to show his old team what he's got, and show him that him and Shane Waldron are here to get some revenge, or at least show them what they got. They're not going to take a standing down, sitting down. So I want to see some productivity, and that means also being able to run the ball. We've got to run the ball, not just multiple carries for like 1 yard, but we got to be productive. So we've got to have positive yardage and good, efficient running game with Rashad Penny. Can he do it twice in a row? I'm hoping that this is going to be the spell of the breaking of the CJ Pro-Size curse that Rashad Penny's had, where he's been compared to as, he's one and done, one carry and done, one game and done. But maybe this is the game he goes back to back, and he shows the world that unlike CJ Pro-Size, who couldn't stay on the field for a longer stretch of time, this is going to be the time we go, wow, this is why they drafted Rashad Penny. So that position group, I'm going to really count on to deliver. Second one is, I said already, but the turnover battle. I feel like we're going to need a little bit of luck in this game. So I think like you said, we've got to win the turnover battle, and we have to have the turnover battle. If we don't, I just don't see how just back and forth we can, in an even match game, just win it out like a tennis match. We got to have some breaks go our way, and so I think we got to get that in the form of a turnover. And then the final one is, I think we've got to be better than them in the red zone. Now, of course, we got to get to the red zone, but that means that whenever we're in the red zone, we've got to score touchdowns. And when they're in our red zone, we've got to find a way to keep them out and limit it to field goals. At least that way, if we're going to give up the yards. I'm convinced that no matter what, we can't shut Cooper Kupp down. We're not going to stop that offense, but if they are going to get 300 yards on us, well, doggone it, let's just prevent them from getting the last 5 or whatever and force them to kick a field goal, and maybe the damage will be minimized, which is like what we've done to so many teams this year. So those are my 3 keys. There's plenty more that have to go right. Third down, time of possession, that goes without saying, but I think those 3 are the ones that stand up. Productivity from the running backs and the tight ends, turnover battle, and better in the red zone. And it'll be a close game. Even though I predicted a loss to begin this year, I've got to believe that the Seahawks will not let the season end on this Sunday to the same team that ended our season last year. We don't want that back-to-back nasty feeling of losing to the Rams and having them knock us out of the playoffs for a second year in a row. So they've got to get it done. Hey, Anthony D, he came in with a $10 super chat. Thank you, man. He goes, oh, man, bud, my bro and I were purposely late for the elementary school at our grandma's house, and our mom was mad for that, was taking us there, and we skid on the road, almost flipped over, made it unharmed. Wow. Ooh. That just goes to show, and the thing is, again, lesson learned with that situation with Sophie is that I know that she said she was driving the speed limit, which I believe her, because, I don't think she would be speeding. However, when it's icy out, you got to be going much slower than the speed limit. The speed limit is like the max on a good day. when it's icy, you got to be going at least a good 5, probably 10 below if you are, even got a chance of some slippery conditions. So keep that in mind. She was probably going too fast given the road conditions, but she also didn't know it was icy. She's first time experiencing it. I'm sure she will do much better the next time. She knows now. So just again, for you guys, be careful out there. Thanks for sharing the story. So there we go. Did you have a score prediction? I know you said it was going to be close, but did you actually have a number?
Yeah, I actually am going to be positive this week and say 30-24 Seahawks victory. I think how that comes about is I need to do some quick math. 3 touchdowns, 3 made extra points, and 3 field goals. I think we have a day. I think we go into SoFi Stadium, and D. Eskridge looks extra fast on the turf. I think Jordan Brooks looks extra fast on the turf. I think Ryan Neal has a game. I'm excited. I think we're putting it together. I think Darrell Taylor will get home at least once. I think Sony Michel is going to be stuffed up. And I think Cooper Kupp's going to get his, but it's not going to be that much. I think we can make the Rams one-dimensional. If OBJ, here's a fourth tip of the key to the game, Norb. If OBJ is their leading receiver, I think we win. It's a weird take.
If OBJ is the leading receiver, then we're going to win.
For the Rams, then we win.
He's on that COVID list. He might not even be playing. So if that's the case,
that's what I'm saying, Norb. That's what I'm saying. So if he has 0 on the COVID list, then we win.
Well,
So that's key number 4. So yeah, that's my score prediction. I think 30-24. I think the Rams put up 3 TDs and a field goal, and it is closer than the score looks. I think we score late, and we score TD late to D. Eskridge on a fly sweep of all things. They just busted the outside contain and didn't set the edge. So
I'd like to see that. Well, one thing to be excited about is, though the threat of Lockett possibly not playing because of the COVID thing, which really sucks, the exciting thing is Gerald Everett would be playing for the first time. D. Eskridge would be playing for the first time. Those 2 big weapons on the Seattle offense we didn't have. Russell Wilson got knocked out of that game. What was it? Was it third quarter? It was something like that. I think it was the second half when he got his finger jammed up. So
objectively speaking, the Seahawks have definitely improved a lot more than the Rams have improved in that time. I mean, Trey Flowers, right? I mean,
and really Jamal Adams too. As much as I don't like the fact that he's unavailable, he was not good in that game. Remember how badly he got beat in coverage? Jordan Brooks was not very good.
He was like going. Bobby Wagner talked about this in a recent press conference, but the linebackers were kind of playing like exactly how they were supposed to, instead of like adjusting the depth based on the Rams' routes in that game. So Robert Woods just killed us that game. So sorry to cut you off. I just
no problem.
Remember that part.
Yeah. So so there's reasons to be excited that it's not just a repeat of what we saw earlier, because the teams are very different from what they were when we met. Some guys weren't even there. Our defense has definitely improved in a lot of ways. Personnel's changed a little bit. And we're running the ball better. We weren't running the ball very well then either. We didn't have Chris Carson. I think it was the Alex Collins show at that time. But anyway, so it may be very different because of the whole COVID thing. So we will see. Go ahead and put you guys' score predictions in the chat. Some of you have already put that. It's your boy X says 28-23. David Gribb says 21-17. 3 Van says 31-23. Donnie Pearson 30-15. Whoa. David Gribb repeats 21-17 again on there. So for me, I'm going to say Seattle by a field goal late. 27-24 is my prediction in this game. So there's going to have to be a couple of key field goals in there for both teams. Both of them scoring pretty good, but Seattle finding a way to move the ball so we can get up in the 20s. And we keep them to mid to low 20s. That's a pretty good formula to succeed if we can pull those things together. So there you go. That's my hope. Fingers crossed. So join me on Sunday as usual for an away watch party. Me and my dad were doing our thing here in the studio and hopefully cheering on the Seahawks to another victory. Make it 3. I'll be 3 in a row, right? If we can get this thing done, that'd be something sweet. So usually December has been pretty good for Seattle. So we'll see if we can keep that tradition up. All right, so we definitely got to do what we always do when we finish this show, and that is to have you, Daniel, talk about your real estate tip of the week. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I had a great conversation with person over text actually right before the show. One of your followers, Norm.
Oh, really?
And it really got me thinking. Yeah, that there are a lot of programs for people, whether they are veterans or they have disabilities, or even if they have a family member with disabilities. There's also programs where you can get down payment assistance. So I sent the link to Norb. I think he can get it up somewhere in the description when he uploads this video, but it's from the Washington State, Washington State Housing Finance Commission. That is a mouthful. And they have a lot of programs available. So one, for example, is called Home Advantage DPA, and DPA stands for Down Payment Assistance. So if you fit the criteria of having, or you make less than, say, $55,000 in Seattle, and you live within city limits, or you're looking to purchase within city limits, there are programs where you can purchase with actually 0% down. There's also ways that you can purchase where Washington State Housing and Finance Commission actually pays for your closing costs too. So we have seen people purchase with as little as a couple $100 down. And you might be thinking, well, wouldn't their loan be massive? Aren't you setting them up for failure, all this stuff? Well, the truth is, when you do one of these programs, the interest rate is extremely low, and it does not need to be paid back for 30 years. And so it's not constantly having compound interest against people that need help. So there's also programs like the Arch East King County program. There's programs in Bellingham, Tacoma, and in Pierce County. So I'd encourage you, to reach out, and I can put you in touch with a lender that is certified with one of these programs. And most of them, and I've taken the classes myself, they usually require just 2 online classes. And they're pretty long, but they're 3 hours of online education with a realtor and a lender, and they walk you through different options. But once you do that, you get a certification, and you have an opportunity to purchase with very little down. And I think it's a very cool opportunity because not everyone just has a $200,000 job and or like family inheritance, or you might feel like it's pretty hard, to get out of the real estate, the rental game and into purchasing. But I just want to encourage people out there that there are ways to do it without hurting you in the short term or the long term. So check out those programs. And Norb just put it in the chat there. So if you want to check out that link, it is absolutely free to poke around and explore. It's free to talk to a realtor. It's also free to talk to a lender and have a consultation. We do not get paid on hourly. We get paid on the value that we bring to you in the marketplace. So thank you for letting me share that. Tip of the day is, don't ask why not, ask how. After you know what you want, then figure out how you want to get there, instead of asking like terrible questions like, why do I have to live this way forever? You don't. There are ways. So that's my encouragement to you.
Yeah, no, that's a great tip. And I did put the link in the chat. It's also added to the description as well. So if you want to go check out those resources, go click on it. And again, I know a lot of people who watch my channel are younger, may not be in a position to being able to make a big financial investment like that. But at least you can have some idea of what it would take when you are ready to. You may not be ready now, but maybe you'll be ready in a few years, or maybe you know somebody who is. So it's always great to get information, to learn about this stuff, because that way you're prepared when the time does finally come. And you can never know too much early, because a lot of times the best thing that you have going for you is time on your side. When you're young, if you start early, then you get a jump on things before you find out, oh, I wish I knew this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So anytime you can find information from guys who know the business, like Daniel, can at least get you going in the right direction, so you'll be ready when the time comes. I can't remember if I mentioned this story. I probably have, but it's one of those things where it's always a reminder of the one of the better decisions my folks made. My parents, they got into real estate pretty early on, and some of the places didn't work out well in terms of buying property, then renting it out. Some were just bad neighbors who just trashed the place, and and it didn't appreciate so much, and was more work than it was worth. But they really did well when they purchased this house up in the University District, mostly because they knew that my sister was going to go to college there and that I would follow suit. So back in 1985, the year before my sister went to school there, they bought this house in the University District about 20 blocks north in the Ravenna neighborhood. At the time, again, this is 1985, the house was purchased for about $85,000. And now, this is how many years later? 26 years later. This house, do you want to take a guess at how much it's worth now?
1.125.
That's pretty dang good, man. Yes, I think it's valued just a little over $1 million. So it's appreciated a lot. And now, especially, they got the light rail station installed, like right down the street there. I'm sure that's another big benefit to it. So they still have the property. They're still renting it out to students. But for me, it was great because I had a place to live. Me and my sister did. And I had some of the best memories with some of my buddies as our little bachelor pad / college place. And then it became the start of our business, Quantum Productions. Mike Lorraine, 80s Broncos fan, he and I were roommates and then became business partners and ran that business out of our place until we finally moved out and got a studio outside of the house. So anyway, I know it's hard to you can't get property that cheap now in this market.
I have another bonus tip, which is if you have the opportunity, I personally think that it's better to purchase the littlest house, the ugliest house or whatever, the most rundown house in a really nice neighborhood than it is to get the nicest house in a neighborhood that you don't like, and by neighborhood you don't like, maybe it doesn't have good resources for you. It doesn't have a grocery store. It doesn't have good roads, or it doesn't have good schools. These are things to consider when you're purchasing a spot. And why is that? Well, in terms of appreciation, like Norb just said, that's what my parents did. They bought it $60,000 way long time ago, and they bought in a swamp. And at the time, Greenwood, it was not a nice place. All the roads were all messed up. There was an oil tank decommissioned in the front yard. The lot is very small. They still live there. It's like 4,000 square feet. But right now, it's probably worth over 1.3 million. And it's pretty amazing that little craftsman home did that. And there's still opportunities. So relatively speaking, right, for example, in parts of Tacoma, there's some really, really cute homes in cute neighborhoods for like $400,000. And, you coming up with 3% of that is $12,000. Like, some people will put down $12,000 on a new car, or a used car for that matter. And so if you can do that for a car, you can do that for a house. And the house is probably not going to depreciate in the same way that a car does.
We all know that car, as soon as you drive it off the lot, that thing has already lost half its value. So, you don't get cars for investment purposes. But, real estate, you generally can't go wrong. And like you said before last week, you get to live in that investment as well. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get the win-win out of it. It's kind of like what you're saying is it's almost like draft picks, right? Everybody wants to, like, buying the really super nice house in the really nice neighborhood is like getting that first round draft pick, early drafts. But there might be the third, fourth, and fifth rounders, which aren't as nice, aren't as shiny, aren't as luxurious. But you might end up investing in a Bobby Wagner or a Russell Wilson or a Cam Chancellor or a Richard Sherman. It'll turn out to be great down the line. So, but you got to do your homework, of course, and research things and get your questions answered. That way you'll kind of know when the time comes. So, great tips.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. And I think we have a very exciting game to look forward to, another NFC West Clash of the Titans, and very excited to see how we end the season. I think it's going to say a lot about our team's character, our team's future, our coaching staff, our players. But what I like so far is that we're still showing a lot of heart. We're showing a lot of care. And, that's the best you can do right now is give max effort. And I think that says more about Pete Carroll and the players than anything. It's like that's the biggest thing is if a coach needs to be fired, it's because the team has given up and they no longer believe. And so no matter what happens, I'm glad that the players are still giving it their all right now.
Yeah, I mean, look at I'm sure you guys may have heard about the Jacksonville situation with Urban Meyer getting fired, not even finishing the one season that he.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that is hard. Normally, a head coach is going to get at least one season to blow his career or his job and then get fired. He didn't even make it to the season. He didn't even make it to the fourth quarter of the season before he got fired. But that was a hot mess to begin with. But man, that was just a bad move. It was ugly on so many levels. Started off bad and ended up even worse with just so many things. The coach calling out his players, calling out his assistant coaches, never taking any accountability for himself. So you look at that and you kind of go and look back at Pete Carroll and go, you know what? Maybe Pete's not that bad of a guy.
Right.
It could definitely be worse. So yeah, that kind of nice to see that little chapter end. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Jacksonville moving forward. But man, that team's a hot mess at the moment.
Mess. I feel bad for Brian Schottenheimer. He went from a good situation to a very bad situation. A lot of
former Seahawk coaches and players down there. Yeah. So we got Shaquille Griffin, I think, is over there, and yeah. So
well, Norm, I got to run, but I just want to give a shout out to 4 clients that I've gotten a chance to talk to from your channel.
Sweet.
And so that's Chris, Rachel, Bruce, and David. We've all had conversations and getting the ball rolling on their goals. Some on the seller side, some on the future buyer side. So appreciate it, guys, and always here for you, and love talking ball too. So thank you, Norm. Appreciate it, and want you to know that one of our clients, Chris, is an incredible musician, and he has a signed album that he gave to me to get to you. So I have that for you. We got to meet up and get that done. So
well, one of these days when you and I get to see each other in person, because we're always seeing each other like this, we'll love to make that happen. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
I'm just assuming you're either 4 feet tall or like 7 feet tall.
No,
that's my assumption. I have no idea.
Somewhere in between. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad to hear that people are coming around from here and at least getting in conversation with you, and little steps. But it's great to hear. Thanks for letting me know, and thank you guys for supporting Daniel. That's great. It warms my heart to hear that things are moving towards the right direction. All right. I'll let you go too, man. And yes, I'm doing a roundtable tomorrow with Squabo and Steezy. So talking more about this game coming up and the state of the Seahawks.
And then, of course,
what's that?
What time is that?
3:30 tomorrow. 3:30 tomorrow.
Okay. I might text you.
Okay.
I might text you.
Okay.
All right, brother.
All right. We'll talk to y'all later. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.